Why would he even ask me to pay rent if I needed a break? Doesn't he love me? I muttered under my breath, staring at the faded carpet in our tiny LA apartment. I never imagined that asking for a little space would turn into a full-blown battle over money, love, and control. Why would he even ask me to pay rent if I needed a break? Doesn't he love me? I muttered under my breath, staring at the faded carpet in our tiny LA apartment. I never imagined that asking for a little space would turn into a full-blown battle over money, love, and control. Part 1. Liv's perspective. I've been with Jake for almost 3 years now, living together for 2, and honestly, things were good. We split the rent 60-40 because he made more. I handled the chores, he cooked sometimes, and somehow it worked. Or at least I thought it did. Last week, I sat him down, all serious, and told him I needed to quit my job. Not for another gig. Not to study. Not to climb the ladder. I needed a reset. A reset? He asked, eyebrows knitted. Like a vacation? No, I said, and the words tasted heavier than I expected. I need 3 to 6 months to just heal, to journal, to find myself again. I could see him trying to process it. He's practical, a planner, the kind of guy who schedules his lunch breaks and grocery runs. I knew this wouldn't sit well. Wait, you want to do nothing for half a year and still live here? He asked cautiously, almost pleading. Yes, I said, a little defensively. I'll take care of the apartment. I'll do all the chores. You won't have to lift a finger. Dishes, laundry, floors, everything. He blinked at me like I'd grown a second head. Liv, the landlord doesn't take fairy dust, babe. I sighed. I know. But it's about my mental health. I just need time, please. He looked like he was about to argue, but instead, he tried to stay calm. Okay, but I'd be paying everything. That's like $2,000 a month. My emergency fund is only $8,000. What if something goes wrong? I frowned. Why would you assume something goes wrong? Life isn't that scary. The car had 2 flat tires last month. My job cut bonuses. Life happens, Liv, he muttered, rubbing his forehead. I felt a pang of guilt, but I also felt misunderstood. Jake, I have $5,000 in savings. I'll use some of that. I need space. Time to breathe. You're acting like this is some financial apocalypse. He offered compromises. Even 25% from your savings. Or we could move somewhere cheaper, or I could lend it to you and you pay me back. I froze. Lend it, Jake? I'm not your tenant. I'm your girlfriend. That's not what I mean, he said quickly, trying not to get frustrated. I want to be realistic. I can't drain myself for 6 months to support this. I crossed my arms, feeling cornered. It's not about money. It's about partnership, love, trust. You're treating me like a business transaction. I'm asking for fairness, Liv, he said quietly. If you want to stay on the lease and have a say in everything, I need some contribution. Money or a clear plan. I took a deep breath and tried to explain. Jake, the chores are worth something. I'll be doing everything around the house. That's equal to rent. He tilted his head, incredulous. So, now you're charging me for chores? No, I said, a little heated. I'm just balancing things. The room fell silent. Neither of us knew what to say next. I felt a mix of frustration and sadness, realizing how different our definitions of partnership were. He's practical, grounded in reality. I'm trying to honor my mental health and emotional needs. And somewhere in the middle, something was breaking. Later that evening, I found myself scrolling through TikTok, looking for affirmation, trying to make sense of my emotions. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted to breathe. I wanted to heal, but little did I know. This was just the beginning of a storm that would drag family, friends, and social media into our living room. 3 days after our talk, I came home from work exhausted, still tasting the grease from a fast food lunch I'd grabbed on the way. And there she was, his mom, sitting on our couch in her leopard print flats, holding a Starbucks cup. My heart did this weird flip, like it had realized it was about to crash. Hi. Mrs. Thompson, I said, trying to sound casual, though my voice wavered. Her smile was tight, almost predatory. We need to talk, she said. My stomach sank. I realized quickly what had happened. I had spilled my frustration to Jake's friends, vented about the pressures, but never imagined his mother would get involved. Apparently, Jake had refused to let me stay without paying rent, which she had translated in her mind to me being kicked out because I was struggling mentally. What kind of man does this? she asked, voice sharp but controlled. You've benefited from her support for years, and now you act like she's disposable because she needs help? I froze. That wasn't exactly what had happened. I hadn't wanted to throw anyone away. I was asking for boundaries. I tried to explain. Mom, I literally said she could stay. I just can't cover the apartment entirely on my own while she takes 6 months off. Her nostrils flared. Help? Alone? You sound more like a landlord than a partner, I wanted to scream. How did this become a moral failing on my part? My voice came out quieter than I expected. I want to be fair. I want to support her, but I can't put us both at risk financially. She shook her head, visibly disappointed. Fine, do it your way. Let her stay. Cover everything. Don't let reality interfere with love. And just like that, I was the villain. The cold, calculating boyfriend. That night, Jake and I barely spoke. I felt cornered, my apartment suddenly feeling smaller than ever. He was tired, probably wondering if he should have intervened with his mother, or maybe he was just processing the new tension. I tried to focus on the chores, doing them meticulously. Every dish, every vacuumed corner, every folded towel, I added a little smile, not out of malice, but because it felt like a silent declaration. I am still here. I am still trying, but the more I did, the more he seemed to withdraw. He'd sit on the couch, scrolling Zillow or Instagram, face set like a man bracing for a storm. And honestly, that made me angry too. Not at him exactly, but at the entire situation. Why was trying to take care of myself suddenly a drama? Why was my mental health treated like a debt to be repaid? 2 days later, I caught him at work, texting frantically to his friends. Somehow, my personal struggle had become a public narrative, painted as him being the victim of my emotional labor. My best friend, Tasha, had posted something about men who hide behind spreadsheets and tagged him. I wanted to laugh, but it was bitter. I wasn't trying to shame him. I was just trying to survive my own exhaustion, my own burnout. When I finally called Jake that night, I was careful. Can we talk? I asked. I'm not in the energy for conflict right now, he replied, calm but tense. So I ended the call. I lit some candles, put on soft music, journaled about what I felt, a mix of guilt, frustration, and hope. Maybe tomorrow we could really talk. Maybe he'd understand, but deep down, I knew boundaries were going to be tested. And if I wanted my reset, I couldn't compromise my own mental health just to keep everyone else comfortable. It was Friday night. I came home late, the air thick with the scent of takeout and scented candles. Jake was already there, sitting on the couch with a grocery bag at his feet, staring at me like I'd just landed from another planet. Liv, we need to talk, he said, voice low but tense. I sighed, flopping onto the armchair. I know. Let's get it over with. He looked me straight in the eye. I get that you need time. I get that you're burnt out. But this, 6 months, no contribution, full lease access, it's too much. I won't cover everything alone. I clenched my hands, trying not to feel defensive. Jake, my mental health isn't negotiable. I can't just keep grinding until I break. I thought you'd understand that. I do, he said, his jaw tight. I do, but this isn't about not understanding. It's about survival. My savings can't sustain both of us for half a year. My job's not guaranteed forever. And yet you expect me to just hand over the apartment and shut up? I looked away, swallowing hard. The truth stung, but I had to say it. It's not about shutting up, Jake. It's about balance. I'll handle the chores. I'll make the apartment spotless. I'll do everything you usually do, but I need time to heal. Why is that so hard for you to accept? Because it's unfair, he said quietly. I'm still expected to cover everything while you focus on journaling and meditating. I can't do it. I love you, but I can't. I felt a flash of panic, the knot in my stomach tightening. So what? You want me gone? You're going to kick me out? No, he said firmly. I'm offering an alternative. Take a break. Go stay with your mom, reset. I'll cover the apartment until the lease ends. No drama, no pressure. But I can't let this continue like it is. I froze. The words hit harder than I expected. Part of me wanted to fight, to argue that love meant sacrifice. But another part, my logical, tired part, knew he was right. I couldn't expect him to carry the weight of both of us financially while I took a sabbatical for myself. I sat there in silence, my mind racing. "And if I refuse?" I whispered. "Then, we need to reconsider this relationship," he said. "Because this isn't a partnership anymore. This is one person checking out and expecting the other to foot the bill." Tears prickled my eyes. I wanted to cry, scream, maybe throw a pillow. But instead, I took a deep breath. Maybe you're right." Jake softened. He got up, walked over, and gave me a tentative hug. "Liv, I love you. I want to support you. But I also have to protect myself." "This doesn't make me your enemy." I nodded, my own heart aching. I thought love was supposed to feel safe. Not like a ledger, not like a spreadsheet. "It can be safe," he whispered, "but it's also reality. Bills exist. Responsibilities exist, and boundaries exist." I laughed softly, bitterly. "I guess I wanted a reset without consequences." "Exactly," he said, voice calm but firm. "And that's why we need a pause, not a permanent arrangement. You go, reset. I keep the apartment. When you're ready, we can revisit this." The next morning, I packed 2 bags, clothes, my laptop, toiletries, taped a note to the fridge. "I love you, but I won't go broke to prove it. I hope you find what you're looking for." As I locked the door behind me, I felt a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. Relief because I was finally choosing my mental health. Heartbreak because love sometimes means walking away, even when it's temporary. I stayed with a friend, for a couple of weeks apartment hunting for something smaller, manageable, safe. Every night I scrolled through TikTok, seeing snippets of my life become semi-viral. People cheering for self-care, dancing in fields, journaling with feathers in their hands. I smiled faintly, deleted the app, and focused on me. And deep down, I realized love isn't always sacrifice without boundaries. Sometimes love is knowing when to say no, to protect yourself, and maybe to protect the relationship in the long run. A month had passed since I moved out. I found a cozy 1-bedroom in Echo Park. Small, a little noisy, but mine. The fridge buzzed like a jet engine and the tiles were cracked, but I slept like a rock. Freedom had a taste. Microwave meals, solo Spotify playlists, and finally, space to breathe. I ran into Mrs. Thompson at Trader Joe's one afternoon. My heart skipped a beat, bracing for judgment, maybe anger. Instead, she looked tired, softer somehow. "You did the right thing," she said quietly, meeting my eyes. I blinked. Relief and confusion collided. "Thanks, I think." She gave me a small nod and moved on. That was it. No lectures, no pointed warnings, just acknowledgement. And somehow, that mattered more than all the arguments and TikTok drama. Jake and I texted exactly twice after that. Day 1. "Wow, really mature." Day 7. "Guess I was right about you all along." I didn't reply. Not out of anger, just because silence felt like the only honest response. 3 months later, I saw Jake's name pop up in my Instagram feed. A mutual friend tagged him in a story about budgeting and personal responsibility. I smiled faintly, scrolling past. No bitterness, no longing, just recognition that boundaries matter, that love doesn't mean giving everything and losing yourself. And TikTok? I checked once, saw my healing videos gaining traction, feet dancing in a field, journaling, incense burning, and then deleted the app. That world wasn't mine anymore. My reset was mine. I learned that day, and every day since, that love isn't measured by sacrifices alone. It's measured by respect, fairness, and the courage to set limits, even when your heart says otherwise. Sometimes walking away is the bravest act of love, not because you stop caring, but because you care enough to protect yourself, and maybe to protect the other person too. As I brewed my first cup of coffee in my new kitchen, I thought of Jake. I hoped he learned too. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. But for me, it didn't matter. I had my peace. I had my apartment. I had me. And sometimes that's more than enough. "You expect me to cover everything while you sit on the couch and find yourself?" I shouted, my hands trembling. It wasn't just anger. It was a cocktail of fear, frustration, and disbelief. My name is Liv, and I never imagined that love could feel like this, like walking a tightrope over a pit of fire while trying to hold on to sanity. Jake and I had been together for 3 years, living together in a small but charming apartment in LA. Rent was brutal, $1,800 a month plus utilities. I worked my butt off, managing my job, bills, and everything in between. He made more, sure, but we had always split chores and expenses in a way that felt fair. But now, he wanted to quit. Not for another job, not to study, just to reset. He called it a healing journey, 6 months to focus on himself while I shouldered the financial weight. And somehow this wasn't supposed to feel like a crisis. I remember sitting across from him at the kitchen table, my coffee growing cold, listening to him explain his plan with wide, hopeful eyes. "I'll do all the housework," he said. "You won't have to lift a finger. You do realize the landlord doesn't accept fairy dust as rent, right?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm, but inside I felt like screaming. He shrugged, smiling faintly. "It's love, Liv, you'll understand. I didn't. How could I? I loved him, but love didn't pay the electric bill. It didn't refill the fridge. It didn't cover unexpected car repairs or medical emergencies. And yet he expected me to just trust him blindly." That night, I lay awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding. I thought about boundaries, about self-respect, about fairness, about honesty, not just in words but in actions. Could I really support him without supporting myself? Could love survive when reality demanded balance? As the hours passed, I realized that my choices were about more than money. They were about who I was, what I valued, and how much I could give before losing myself. Love wasn't supposed to hurt this way. And yet, here I was, caught in the crossfire of passion, loyalty, and responsibility. Tuyet voi, doi jaila ban kechuyen lian mak tu part 2 gen part 8. Tipnoi part 1 banjanso, voi jong ken goi thun hat. Kitiet dam liva hanjong, boi kan mai, tong the juja trien kai mo 7002. Toi se chia ro tung fan je de teo doi hidong video. The next morning, the apartment felt different. The air was heavier, thick with unspoken words. Jake was already at the kitchen counter, scrolling through his phone. I sipped my coffee, trying to steady my nerves. "I think you don't get it," I said quietly, breaking the silence. "This isn't just a vacation. I need to heal. I need space. 6 months isn't forever. It's survival." He looked up, eyes narrowed. "Liv, it's survival for you, not for me. I'm supposed to pay the rent, the utilities, groceries, everything. My emergency fund is not endless. I can't gamble our life savings on a dream that doesn't even exist yet." I felt a flash of anger. A dream that doesn't exist? Jake, this isn't about luxury. It's about sanity. I've been burning out for months, maybe years. You think I'm asking for a spa day? I'm asking for survival. His face softened. I get burnout. I've been there. But there's a difference between taking a break for 2 weeks and quitting everything for half a year. I'm not against you healing. I'm against us going bankrupt in the process. We argued for hours. Every attempt at compromise felt like walking on broken glass. I suggested using some of my savings to cover part of the rent. He countered with budgeting ideas, moving to a cheaper apartment, even setting up a repayment plan for after I returned to work. "No," I said finally, my voice shaking. "That feels like a contract. I'm not a tenant. I'm your partner," he sighed, rubbing his forehead. "I'm not making you a tenant. I'm trying to make this fair. Love doesn't pay the bills. Reality does." By noon, neither of us had eaten. The cat wandered between our feet, meowing, oblivious to the tension. We hadn't touched each other. Every glance was a battlefield. I wanted to scream, cry, and hug him at the same time. That evening, his mother showed up unannounced. She walked in with a tight smile, instantly filling the room with judgment. "Liv, honey, are you really going to make him support you like this?" I felt heat rise to my cheeks. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm not asking for charity. I'm asking for understanding. You're young. Maybe you think love is about feelings, but Jake has responsibilities. You can't just check out of life for months and expect him to carry the weight alone." I opened my mouth, but the words wouldn't come. Jake grabbed my hand gently, giving me a look that said, "Let it go, for now." Days passed, tension simmering. Small things became symbols of the larger conflict. He cooked breakfast. I washed dishes. He made plans for the future. I daydreamed about escape. One night, he sat me down. Liv, either we find a way to balance this, or we need to take a break. I froze. A break? After everything? Yes, he said firmly. Because love shouldn't feel like a debt you can't repay. I love you, but I also have to protect myself. Tears welled up. You want me gone? No, he whispered. I want you to heal, but I can't let this destroy us, or me. It was the hardest choice I'd ever faced. Leave the apartment, give up my comfort, or stay and risk wrecking everything. I packed my bags, leaving a note. I love you, but I won't go broke to prove it. I hope you find what you're looking for. Walking out, I felt the strange weightlessness of freedom, mixed with heartbreak. I had no idea if this was the end or the beginning of something new. Living at my friend's place gave me space to breathe. I slept, journaled, and thought. The apartment, Jake's apartment, became a ghost in my mind. We texted only twice. Wow, really mature, he said the first day. Guess I was right about you, the second. I didn't reply. Silence felt safer. The TikTok videos I had posted during my reset started gaining traction. People cheered for self-care, for prioritizing mental health. For the first time, I realized I wasn't alone. My feelings were valid. My choices were valid. Meanwhile, Jake's mother softened in her messages. You did the right thing, she said when I ran into her at Trader Joe's. It was quiet acknowledgement, not judgment. I understood then. Consequences weren't always punishment. Sometimes they were lessons. 3 months in, I found my rhythm. My apartment was small, a little noisy, but mine. I cooked for myself, folded my laundry, and reconnected with friends. I realized boundaries weren't walls. They were lifelines. Protecting my mental health, my savings, and my space wasn't selfish, it was essential. Love didn't require sacrifice of self-respect. I also understood fairness. Relationships aren't a ledger, but they require balance. Mutual respect, shared responsibility, and honest communication became my compass. I journaled daily. I matter too. I deserve support. I deserve growth. By month 4, I was thriving. I started small freelance projects, earning a little extra cash. I decorated my apartment, lit candles, played music. Every detail reminded me, this is my life. Jake and I rarely spoke, but I didn't resent him. He had his own lessons. Love wasn't about control. It was about freedom. I felt proud, strong, independent. For the first time, I understood that walking away wasn't losing love. It was preserving it. One evening, I watched the sunset from my balcony. I thought of Jake, of our arguments, of the weight I had carried. I realized forgiveness wasn't about excusing behavior. It was about releasing myself. I wasn't broken. I wasn't failing. I was learning, growing, surviving. My mental health, my boundaries, and my independence were victories. I danced barefoot in my living room, journal in hand, feeling fully alive. Self-respect had a taste sweeter than any comfort food, any paycheck, any validation from others. Love isn't about giving up everything for someone else. It's not about sacrificing your mental health, your savings, or your boundaries. True love respects limits. It supports growth without draining your soul. Walking away or taking space isn't failure. It's courage. It's saying, I matter too. And sometimes protecting yourself is the most loving thing you can do, for both yourself and the person you care about. Self-respect, fairness, and honesty are the real foundations of any partnership. Boundaries are not barriers. They are bridges to healthier, stronger connections. Sometimes love requires distance, reflection, and the bravery to choose yourself. And sometimes that choice becomes the most profound act of care, not just for you, but for everyone involved. Love isn't about giving up everything for someone else. It's not about sacrificing your mental health, your savings, or your boundaries. True love respects limits. It supports growth without draining your soul. Walking away or taking space isn't failure. It's courage. It's saying, I matter too. And sometimes protecting yourself is the most loving thing you can do, for both yourself and the person you care about. Self-respect, fairness, and honesty are the real foundations of any partnership.